Hey, thanks for tuning in to our Advanblack YouTube channel. I'm Ty, and today we are going to do a body swap, a full bundle kit for a 2019 Road Glide. And it's not just any body kit, it is a Fast Johnnie, and we chose to do it in red. And what's so cool about the Fast Johnnie, specifically for me, is because the way that it came about, right? This was Ray Wisher, and what he did back in the 1920s, and it happened in Marion, Indiana, from where I am from, that he had a piglet and they named him Johnnie, and it's Fast Johnnie. And so what he would do is he'd put that piglet on the tank of the bike, and on his victory lap, he'd race around the track. And so that is where, honestly, the hog started for Harley-Davidson. So there's a little bit of history that we can tie into this really cool body swap. All right, so involving all of the body swap, there's quite a few pieces. We're gonna start today with the inner fairing because to me, it takes the longest and I like to knock that out first. But when we come over to the bike, you can see that I've already installed the gauge cluster and the nacelle and the cover on the front. And then we also need to have the support bracket for the rear of the outer fairing, inner fairing assembly. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into this. So the inner fairing, so this assembly, I call it a sub-assembly. It honestly is in 3 or 4 different pieces. Because I'm swapping, I take it apart and leave it together as a sub-assembly. And then before we go ahead and marry that to the inner fairing, we're gonna go ahead and put the gauges, 2 gauges in, fuel and voltage, and then we'll go ahead and put the glove box doors and the assemblies on first. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using power tools, but I'm very comfortable and use them often, so I have a good feel for the torque, and it makes it a little bit quicker for me, but you might want to just go ahead and use hand tools. These are brass inserts, and so you don't need to apply any thread locker on these, and I would suggest that you don't, because then what's going to happen is those inserts are going to get bound up on the screw, and then they're going to strip inside the bosses. And then I will go through after and I will run a hand tool over them just to double check the torque, because you never know where you're at on your battery life cycle, so it's going to definitely matter as far as the torque that it sends. All right, this is the mechanism for the glove box door. It has 4 bolts as well, still going into the brass inserts. If this is your first time, I really highly recommend starting everything with hand tools because you do not want to cross thread these. Brass is obviously a soft metal. And once that is stripped, then you've got a mess on your hands. Again, you don't need to be a certified Harley Master Tech. That's no shade on that if you are. But this is a pretty easy process, and that's something we like to make sure everybody knows. When you buy our products, you don't have to do a lot of cutting or massaging or manipulating, because everything fit and the finish is really excellent. Everything is backwards, so I'm backwards. Right, left, so this is right. Screws that actually hold the glove box door on are quite a bit smaller. I like to go diagonal, so once you get one, and then obviously I don't torque them all the way down first time around, because there is a little bit of play that needs to happen. Doesn't take much to get off the hole, just a little bit. I could tell that one was not perfectly aligned. There we go. That gives us all 4. So 8 screws in total, 4 that holds the mechanism and 4 that holds the door. Again, go diagonal. I am starting to laugh to myself. I'm telling you guys not to use power tools, and I'm using them. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm sure that's maybe what some of your parents told you as well. All right, there you go. Now we got the doors on. All right, so I went ahead and I used hand tools to go ahead and make sure everything's torqued down, and then I actually flipped over the interfering to check the glove box doors to make sure that the alignment was correct. And it is. These 4 screws self-align everything, but I like to check anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the sub-assembly, and I am going to pick it up and set it right down on the fairing. But as I do, I go ahead and I just plug in the gauges just to make it a little bit more simple for myself. It does weigh a few pounds. And then fully seat it right into, and everything should line up when it is in the proper location. All right. And now we'll go ahead and we will screw down all the corresponding areas that need fixtured down to the interfering. Alrighty, so as you watched me slide the sub-assembly down onto the interfering, things to take note of: there are 2 stakes or alignment pins that these lower ducts will sit into. And then the other thing was just the 1 wire that you run down the inner of, that's your 12-volt accessory. And then it's just a few bolts to go ahead and assemble. And again, I run these in till they touch, and then I'll hand torque them. There's 3 on each side that I've found to be able to be reused. Rotate the other side around. And now the 2 are married together. Alrighty, so I said that there were 6 bolts. I actually found 2 more that I forgot about. There's 2 screws that actually attach the lower duct to the interfering, and then I also installed the 12-volt accessory. So now that we're going to take this and move it over to the bike, I go ahead and I wrap 3 different areas with some electrical tape to kind of take the bundle of wires so that as one person you can fit it through the hole. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that now. Set it up on here. The radio plug, the monster. And then once you get all the wires pulled through, you can set it up onto the tab on the actual mounting bracket. And that'll hold it in place. And then I just go ahead and I take 1 screw just to keep it in safe mode so it doesn't fall out. Here we are. Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and install the 4 bolts and make sure to put blue Loctite. This will actually be your main mounting to the main bracket, which is affixed to the neck of the bike. Go diagonal. And then we'll switch from 1/2 inch to 7/16 and we'll attach the bolts into the fairing bracket. There we go. That is attached to the bike now. And we pulled all the wire through. And so just like when you disassembled it, you had to route it through the mounting bracket holes. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the time to run the wiring back up and make sure that it is zip tied in place so that it's stationary and we're good to go. All right, we're getting close to finishing up the front fairing. We are going to go ahead and put in the headlight. Make sure I put blue Loctite on these. The wings of the headlight have little tabs to line it up and get everything situated into place. There you have it. Next will be the outer fairing. All right, it's time for the outer fairing. So you want to make sure that you transfer over your turn signals, your blinkers, and then you're going to go ahead and need to put your wire tie stakes on there, and then don't forget to also transfer over your nut clips. You're going to go ahead and move this into place. And as you do that, you're going to plug in your turn signals or blinkers, whatever you prefer to call them. Your left and right. Slide it up into place. You're gonna grab one of your screws of where your speakers actually mount to and use that as a temporary hold. Easier said than done. Alrighty, so at this point you are starting to add all the bolts. Are going to kind of snug it up so that you can have nice clean lines all the way around. If you've already tightened down a bolt too tight, then they might not fit in. But if you've done it a few times, it all lines up. Alrighty, vent, duct, and windshield. Gonna line these up. It's got 2 push clips. In. Your vent, roll it in as well. Tip it and tilt it, walk it in. Make sure everything's firmly in place before you set the windshield. Before you set the windshield, go ahead and start the screws. Again, not advisable to use power tools unless you know them very well. So you're just going to get them started. I'm sure my camera guy is really mad at me for getting smudge prints all over this thing. All right, Phillips screwdriver, I'll go ahead and use a hand tool. Last screw. All we've got left is to pop in the grills. All right, we're gonna go ahead and install the 21-inch reveal front fender, and what I do is I like to roll it in. I've already got the spacers set up with the bolts pushed halfway in that are holding it, so that way when I roll it in, it's the least amount of chance to scratch. So I roll it right into the tire. Push in a little bit, find the holes. And then you've got nylon lock nuts that go on the inside. Tighten it up and call it home. Alrighty, here we have our tank cover. Tank covers are probably one of the easiest and most transforming, I think, of the bike. So we'll go ahead and cover up that ugly stock tank. It's really only 2 bolts and 2 screws that hold it together. Simply slide it into place. You've got your tank bolt out, and you're gonna go ahead and replace that tank bolt. Go to the other side, same thing. You tilt just a little bit so you don't hit the outer fairing. Bring it in together. Tank bolt. And then 2 screws with nuts and washers to hold and pinch point right down the middle, and then that's all covered up by the tank console. All right, we've got our carbon fiber tank console. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the fuel cap. We're gonna slide it into place. We've got 1 screw for the front and 1 bolt in the back. You're gonna go ahead and move your lines in between so it fits. Get that gas cap in there so you don't get too high. Another point I love to make is just with these tank covers, the beauty of these tank covers are you get a tank dent, you fall, whatever it is, instead of having somebody go to a PDR and have them try and remove it, you can go ahead and cover that up, especially with our perfectly matched color. You don't need to worry about buying another tank. Just get a set of tank covers. You saw how easy they were to install, and then you've got a new bike again. All right, side covers and the adjustable pins. So you want to go ahead and figure out what depth and locate the 3 pins and find the receiving holes. And there you go. All right, we're gonna go ahead now and we're gonna complete the outer fairing front end with the lower spoiler kit. And the first thing we need to do is need to install a bracket on the fairing, which goes in. It's marked left and right, so that makes it pretty easy. It goes around the fairing. Two bolts, fore and aft, front and back. Get them started. And then again, you can run those up. And then we're gonna go ahead and put the lower fairing piece, which goes over the cooler. And you're gonna go ahead and take the 2 included rubber grommets and put the thin side through. Make sure it gets all the way through. I like to put it through and then rotate it just to make sure it unfolds. Rotate it. All right, we're gonna maneuver this in. Up, around, and over. And there's 2 stakes, nubs, nipples, whatever you want to call on the bottom that go into those grommets that you just installed. You push those in, and you'll feel a positive lock. And then you'll move on to the upper part of the kit. And in order to install that, you have a nut clip that you will install. And that nut clip slides over the top, feeds in, and then you are going to take it. It's kind of got a Z shape, and you have to line that up and slide it over. Easier said than done. There you go. Flex it a little bit to get it into place. And then you'll put the appropriate hardware on. The one goes in the front, and that was the bracket you just installed. And then you have your 2 screws in the back. And then you have this clamp that goes around your engine guard. And you will install a bolt for that as well. And there is also a bolt in the lower part that connects the lower part and the upper part. So you'll do the same thing for the other side. And you will have your spoiler kit installed. If the spoiler kit has any gaps between the outer fairing and the spoiler kit, there are 2 bolts that basically mount the bracket that holds the outer fairing, and they are right inside here, and they hold right through the neck, and you loosen those up and it will give you flex in your outer fairing so that everything will sit nice and tight. Alrighty, we're working our way to the rear of the bike. So we've got our Dominator rear fender, and we have our smoked tail lenses, and this is the opportunity to have a dual cutout for the exhaust that we have on our particular bike. What we're gonna do is we've taken apart the fender that was on there, and we are transferring the hardware over to this. And so what we wanna do is we're gonna start with, we supply these washers, these nuts. We're gonna go ahead and put them in the rear only for right now, and you're gonna rotate it around until it seats itself. Then you're gonna go ahead and put the nuts on. We'll do that for both sides. These get torqued down to about 20 foot-pounds. We'll go over to the other side. Rotate it till it seats. Washer that came with the package and nut. I'll torque those down in just a second. We've already taken off the rear license plate frame. That's something that I like to do. This gives us access to this bolt, washer, and nut. And I loosen it up so that it can slide a little bit based on the tri-bar, the rear fastening brace that goes across the back of the bike. And then we will also go ahead now and put in this solo seat. This is the hardware that if you want to be able to mount in the seat behind the driver's seat, you'll have these big plastic washers. Do not push these on. They actually screw on. If you go ahead and push them on, then you are going to make them loose and they will not do their job of holding this mount up. And then I'll just go ahead and throw the nuts on there. I'll go ahead and tighten these down and then we'll take it over to the bike. All right, now we're to the rear of the bike and it's time to put the Dominator fender on. So this is the opportunity, if you're gonna scratch a part, this would be it. So what I do is loosen everything up completely so that it's got the most flex possible. You could take out your docking heart if you wanted to, but I just loosen it up so it flexes. Then I just throw a piece of painter's tape on there real quick. And then we'll go ahead and guide these in. I take my wire, put it through the hole so that does not cause any backup. Slide that in between. You're gonna be up on the bike, and then the nuts, once you get the nuts to where they hit, you can flex in on the fender. And she's in place. So these are those two bolts that we just installed and transferred from the other fender. I like to get these bolts in now, because as you know, it is a game of alignment. You don't want to ever torque anything down until everything is in place. Otherwise, it's going to be off. All right, we're nearing the end and the completion of installing the Dominator fender. And what I'm getting ready to do is put the last screw in for the license plate. We've already run the wiring through the hole. We've got the cross brace that ties the two saddlebag brackets together, and we've gone through and we've torqued all the hardware. So this is the fun part. Screw, washer, nut. Alrighty, we are on to the saddlebags. Saddlebags are gonna get set right on the support bar. And then take the knobs. Locate the nut. Close the lid. There you have it. Alrighty, we are putting on the final piece to our bundle set of our Fast Johnnie. Let's go ahead and put this tour pack on, click it in place, and be finished. Locked and loaded. There she is. nice bike come together. 2019 Road Glide with our Fast Johnnie bundle done in red and white. This is a nice looking full-bodied paint scheme, and we hope that you've enjoyed watching this YouTube channel. This is the opportunity for you to be able to see what it looks like from start to beginning, but we did not include every detail, every torque spec. We have that on our YouTube channel. You'll need to go there to watch those for the detailed instructions. But to get an overall feel and to see what our bundle kit looks like, this is the Fast Johnnie in red and white. Thanks for watching.